Hi, everybody. My name is Emma Stanton, and I'm the playwright of No Candy. I want to thank you all for coming today and sitting through the reading. I'm so sad I couldn't be there to see it. I just wanted to share a little bit about why I wrote No Candy, where it comes from. I started writing No Candy just a couple of years ago. It started in response to the persecution of the Yazidi women in northern Iraq, the Yazidi people being an ethnic minority in that region. And these women, at the hands of ISIS, were raped and taken into sexual slavery, and this is still ongoing. But at the time when this news first broke of what was happening, I felt incredibly ill-equipped to respond, but I wanted to respond. And the first thing that came to my mind was thinking about what it means to be a community of women, especially what does it mean to be a community of women during wartime, during a time of ethnic cleansing, and how do certain groups use rape as a tool to ethnically cleanse a community. And with these questions in mind, I immediately thought of the Bosnian War, where Srebrenica genocide in particular, where 8,000 Bosnian Muslim men were executed over a series of days, and many of the women were raped, and they were forced to see many of their male children and relatives taken away from them. So I thought of the Bosnian War as a sort of entry point into a story about women, not during war, but after war. I wasn't really interested in focusing on the event, the traumatic event that happened to the women. I was more interested in thinking about or exploring how these women came together as a community, especially after a traumatic event. I thought a lot about how a community holds trauma within their bodies, and how that inevitably can shape a community into something that is either fixed or fluid. I guess what is the shape of trauma is something I was thinking about. And also, how do different generations deal with trauma? You know, who has ownership over a singular event? Specifically for this kind of community, these Bosnian women in the play were all witness to a horrifying event in a factory in Srebrenica. And how did their witnessing of the event, of their loved ones being taken away from them, or whether they were raped or their children died, how did they experience it? How did they move forward from that point? And who was allowed to engage with them about their story again? Who was allowed to talk about the son that they lost? Who was allowed to talk about the grandchild that was raped? You know, horrifying questions, obviously, but these are the questions I was thinking about, especially in this shop, and especially about Bosnia in particular, and how they choose to move forward after something like that happens to them. And so on the positive side of things, I was thinking about resilience. I was thinking about humor being a really important remedy during something like this, and in art making. Jewelry making and coaster making in particular, bad poetry, just the things that these women might want to start embarking on as a way of taking their mind off of something, or finding pleasure in something new, feeling empowered. How do these women feel empowered now, after feeling not in control of a situation? Yeah, I guess empowerment was a huge theme for me when writing this. And so, and I have to say that a lot of that mindset, or focusing on the positive ways in which a community can also move forward from something horrible, is my research that I did with Bosnian artist Shayla Kamaric, who I based my character Maya off of. And, when I was talking with her, she lived through the siege of Sarajevo during the Bosnian War. And I asked her, you were a teenager during the siege. You were under siege for 3 years. What was that like? Were you listening to music still? Were you making art? What did you do? And she told me about the kind of punk rock movement that was going through the international community at the time. And she told me about, when you're under siege, when you're under something terrible like what she went through, when opposing forces are circling your city and shelling your community and shooting gunfire into your community for 3 years, you just start living your life as normally as you can. And she talked about, people were still having babies and, going outside and taking walks and trying to see theater. And there were still, it was still sometimes beautiful outside. Like there were still sunny days and the sun was shining, even under siege, and it's important not to stereotype a situation, or to think of undergoing trauma as this super heavy situation. People still were finding opportunities to live their lives and to feel joy and feel happiness, because it could be over, tomorrow. And so that hearing her talk about that was amazing. And I feel like that became a core philosophy for me when I was writing the play. Anyway, so I hope this wasn't too long of a rant about my play, and hope you enjoyed yourselves and have a good rest of your evening. Thank you.